Welcome to the Long Range Pursuit Podcast, presented by Gunworks, where we learn about and share long-range shooting techniques, science, and gear. Well, guys, thanks for joining. We're going to do another episode, podcast for Long Range Pursuit, and we're going to talk product. We've got Jim Allen, who's running the whole product team, and Jim Sabir, which is our rifle division product manager. And we're going to talk about Skunkworks program, and specifically a new project that we're kicking off. We've kind of had a little backlog, and so I see a logjam unlimbering in 26. But we're going to talk about, did we get a name for this thing?
ATF.
I thought it was the TAF.
Well, I think depending on how we accentuate the T.
All right. Okay, cool. Well, Jim, why don't you kick us off and just give us kind of a overview on the project, and then we can kind of pick up on some Skunkworks topics as we go.
Yeah. I think great to start with Skunkworks to ground kind of how we get here. And Skunkworks is our opportunity to have fun, right? To exercise muscles that we don't ordinarily exercise, to experiment, to play and tinker, and to really have fun with a project. And they don't necessarily come. It's interesting. The last two that I've been involved in, they kind of came up like, oh man, it was an idea, and it just gets momentum. And this one came from the Big Beautiful Bill, right? The inspiration was, hey, we don't have to pay for this stamp anymore, and what if we did a two-stamper? And kind of just excited about, man, I want a suppressor, I want an SBR, and how do we that kind of inspiration and the momentum that you get when you start to talk about it, no different than the accountant, right? Just like, whoa.
Yeah, usually the litmus test for whether a project's right on or not is you drag a prototype around the shop and see how many people are like, oh man, I got to have one.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one.
This was probably our best reaction in that regard. Like, we didn't find a single person that didn't want one of these when we showed it to everybody.
Yeah. Well, Jim, we've been doing Skunkworks since it was called the Collective, right? We started there with that concept of the truck gun, and working with a handful of brands to, assemble a really cool rifle that doesn't really fit in our mainstream product lineup. Like, our core at Gunworks is long-range hunting rifles. But that doesn't mean we don't like every single gun that's out there, right? And we want to play in that space and participate in that. But, we to keep a cohesive, product lineup, right? And brand and approach towards, the marketplace. It kind of stifles, what we can do. Because you guys know me. It's like, I want to do everything, right? Everything. And that's a problem sometimes. So maybe Skunkworks as a outlet, for that need to do everything has been maybe the true value of that program.
Yeah.
But what I really like about it is I actually like the deadline, the sprint, right? The concept and rapid, approach towards a solution. When we do a gun development like the Index and it takes 2.5 years, right? Yeah. Those are intense, hard projects. And you write a clean sheet and you start from scratch and you don't know what you don't know. And you run into failure after failure, right? And so a Skunkworks program, to me, is more of a singular ideation. Right? It's one thing that we want to try on. Now, we've let that get loose on us before, like the cut. That was too much. Yeah. It exceeded the scope of the program. But I think the accountant's a perfect example. It's like we have this concept and this approach, and you don't have to solve a lot of technical challenges, right? 1, 2, right? I mean, with the accountant, the real focus was what kind of performance can we get from a short barrel? And we've seen short barrel as like, it's been the way for a long time. And I am always interested in seeing how, as we find an ethos or we find a direction and we kind of nudge the marketplace in that direction, and then you see that pressure eventually turn into a movement of the entire space. I think a really good example of that is when we started this business, long range was 300 rum, 3378 Weatherby, light, solid copper bullets going really, really fast. And like, to me, it's like the worst possible combination of system because of all the trade-offs that you get and like all the negatives, like the recoil, the ballistic performance, all these things. So our approach was early on, it was, well, let's use science. Let's cut the recoil in half. Let's actually deliver, 30, 40% more performance at distance. Let's use smart projectiles. Let's do these things. And so we were pushing 6.5 to 84, 7 rim mag. That was what we were pushing. We invented the 7 LRM really quickly after our initiation, and that was the core cartridge. And if you look at that ethos of, ballistic performance and minimizing recoil using science, and you look at that versus big Magnum Hellblasters is what we always used to call them, like, the whole marketplace moved there because it was the right choice and it was the right decision. And as soon as you educate and teach people about this and put the products in the marketplace and show the success, everybody could believe it and they could move that direction. And I think we did that with stock design. Like I think we've finally, I think finally everybody has realized that performance geometries that focus on the physical nature of a rifle stock can deliver more significant results than what the sex appeal of the classic, blocky grip, long range rifle stock looks like. So I think we're seeing the market move in that direction. So negative comb, the right toe line, for the application. You look at the pressure that's there, and now go back and look at barrels. It's like when we started, 25.5 inches was what our LR1000 barrel was. And we were struggling to convince guys that were sold that 26, 27, 28 inch barrels were required for long range. And I used to always say, yeah, it's going to shoot 3 inches farther than this 25.5 inch barrel, right? And we liked that program. And then as we started moving into suppressor space and building suppressors and utilizing suppressors, like, we realized that shorter barrels were even nicer. Yeah. And this whole time we've just been pushing a little bit shorter. And thank goodness that we actually innovate products, because if I ran a company where, first of all, we're 5 to 10 years late to the party, and our big product announcement is a 16-inch barrel in an assembled, system. I don't know if you saw that. Your favorite company just launched a new product there. But the short barrel thing has been like part of our DNA for quite some time. And I see that pressure has changed the industry. Mm-hmm. And shorter barrels, and, subsonic's really interesting as well. There's a lot to learn there for us, but shorter barrels and how to extract performance, I think have been like top of mind.
Yeah, in the last 12 years, the engineering department has redesigned the barrel contours almost every year, and every time we do it, they get a little bit shorter and a little bit lighter, and so, yeah, it's definitely the way that it's all moving.
When you think about it, hasn't even been a year, and the popularity of 18 and I mean, if you think about the Index and some of the favorite rifles that have went around are 16-inch barrel, 300 PRC. I mean, I think Derek killed an elk this year at 1,000 yards, and several animals, and they just, I mean, you 16-inch 300 PRC. That's a big.
Well, the main thing is this gun stuff isn't witchcraft and it's not voodoo. A lot of people approach it that way, but there's a very straightforward set of science. I would say one of the things we've really tried to instill in people in our training program is a concept of terminal performance. And, one of the things that we've combated and battled against was this, and I'm not lumping all gun writers into this category, but the stupid gun writer claim of you need this many foot-pounds to kill an elk. You need this many foot-pounds of energy to kill a deer. And by understanding what's really going on in terminal performance, you can very quickly debunk those stupid claims. People are not able always to discriminate, and sometimes they'll take your word for it, and now all of a sudden you've created this old wives' tale of 2,000 foot-pounds for an elk.
Right.
And it's really easy to extract from that. Now, as an engineer, you learn really quickly, test an assumption at the limits to see if it still holds up. And so a really quick test on the 2,000 foot-pounds is put together a 22-250 and a frangible Varmint bullet and go put a shot on an elk shoulder at 75, 80 yards and see what happens. Right? That impact is 2,000 foot-pounds or greater of energy. Right? Velocity makes big energy numbers, but you're not going to have a good result. So I think understanding, terminal performance and what really is required. And so we've been teaching this in our course for a long time. We've taught a lot of trainers that have gone on to, make their courses. And so we've put this information out there. It doesn't originate with us, but the collection of it and the support of it with our shooting and our experiences, I think brings some weight to it. But it's more about the threshold velocity for impact. And then based on the bullet's type, how is that bullet going to behave? Because an expanding bullet behaves different than a VLD style bullet, behaves differently than a controlled round or a performance type bullet. And so you can look at the different wound cavities, the different penetration, upset distances, cavitation, etc., that those bullets will undergo. And each one of those bullets has a different type of threshold velocity. And so you look at an ELD match bullet, it's like that threshold velocity is 1,1700 feet per second. Now it has other limitations, in terms of like where shot placement you have when it's going fast, etc. A VLD bullet has a different terminal velocity threshold than like a Barnes X, tipped X. So, you pick the bullet, you've got a threshold velocity for that, and they're all pretty similar, but and then you're like, okay, well, based on that threshold velocity and my ballistic setup, how far does it shoot, right? And have guaranteed expected terminal performance. And then the real question is, okay, well, if I give up 100 feet per second, now what? Let me give up 200 feet per second, now what? Right? And so now you get to play that game of what's the trade-off in barrel length with initial muzzle velocity, and what is the effect of that on terminal range, and is that acceptable or not? So there's the game. And we've played that a bunch. If you go look at all the Skunkworks out there, how many of them are not short barrels?
Yeah, there's not very many.
I mean, we have, I think, and it's not just us, right? It's the general shooting enthusiast has this fascination for compact, right? And small and short barrels. And
well, every person that's in gun space wants to believe the myth of magic performance, right? It's what every hand loader, will I get this speed out of this load because I'm special and I've got a special rifle and I can break the laws of physics, right? Yeah. But that everybody wants to have that belief of something magical. I think a short barrel, you're like, well, how does that work?
Right.
How does it work?
Yeah.
So short barrels, we just did 308 last year.
Yeah.
And we took some learnings from that in the account.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the requirements. So, we talked about kind of the inspiration behind the project. This project was, what spawned the idea was the big beautiful bill and the ATF restrictions coming off, and it was a
what the inspiration was we want to chase this freaking magic of
the idea.
How short can you make it and how much cool crap can you do with it.
That was the result. That's what drove the requirements. So we started out, and these requirements were the beginning, right? This is kind of like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool? And I said a short barrel, 10 to 12 inches, cartridge, accurate and capable of distances 400 to 500 yards. We are talking about a 10 to 12 inch barrel, but 500 yards was like, wow, that would be cool. Compact package, folding stock. We wanted to have a short barrel. We also wanted it to be small. Suppressor, because we are gentlemen, right? Any reason to not use one these days, especially in a 10-inch barrel. A case. We always with Skunkworks, packaging is always clutch, right? It's key. You got to have this.
That's what made the accountant.
Yes.
You go look at that. That's what made the accountant.
Right. So we wanted a small case that could house, the gun, the suppressor, the accessories, and we'll get into some of the accessories later that will round out the package at the end of the day. So those were the requirements. That's how we set out. Like, okay. And there was an iterative process that started. Like the first one was a clunky. I say clunky. It was a small chassis that I had, and I put together a 10-inch barrel and a 6.5 Creedmoor. That was the first iteration, and it was fun, right? But was not where we landed.
Well, we've had a lot of experience with Creedmoor in non-standard barrel lengths. I feel like it is a really cool cartridge, as gay as it is. It's like, I think it's freaking cool. Every engineering sample rifle I buy in a 6.5 Creedmoor, right? It's kind of a standardization across all those systems. Well, and ammo's cheap, and you can shoot it and have fun, and it's not brutal.
Yeah.
Right? It's a good example. And if somebody can't make a gun that shoots a 6.5 Creedmoor good, then we got problems, right?
Yeah. So that 10-inch barrel, we started testing, right? It was just an idea at that point. And I shot that rifle. Rifle's an interesting term for that little thing, but shot that rifle out here, and 500 yards was easy.
What was it running for speed?
Like it was 2250
with
the 140. Stuff? Yeah, with just straight off our shelf, our 140 load. And ESs were stupid good, and accuracy was fantastic. And then Jeremy he took it and was playing around, and it was fun. And I actually shot it out to 900 yards out here on steel, and it was cool.
Did you ever figure what the velocity was, impact velocity at 900?
I have it in the app. I forget. It was pretty
subsonic.
It wasn't quite. Yeah. And when we look at the ballistics on where we landed, we'll talk about where it goes subsonic, and I think it's pretty.
I think if you look at short barrels and start looking at what are the considerations.
Yeah.
And I actually find very interesting the effect of bullet diameter on what you can extract for energy transfer in that short combustion. Right? It's kind of interesting in my opinion, and sets up challenges. Now we went a different direction in our build.
Yeah.
Right? But knowingly did that. I mean, with the accountant last year, the learning was the 308 delivered better performance than the 6.5 in the shorter barrel, and we were able to optimize a load for that. It was pretty significant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've seen quite a few of those that tested out quarter minute of angle.
Wait until we talk about the results that we've got during load development, but we can go into so we looked at 6.5 Creedmoor, and then we're like, what about an arc? And we looked at a 338 arc, and there's some limitations to the 338, and you had talked about
we still have scars from
8.6
from trying to make an 8.6 work.
There was definitely some angst around the that platform, even when it was suggested because of the scars.
It's such a cool cartridge, so we're
It is.
not knocking on it.
No, we're.
But when we approached a build, we actually did a Skunkworks build with this, and we got all the way down this road, and we're trying to validate ammo and loads, and we just got to this point where you couldn't make it shoot much better than 2 MOA. I mean, I think we got some 1.5 type performance maybe,
but it wouldn't pass.
And you'd get a flyer once in a while.
Yeah.
And for us, like, our weapons always shoot so good. In our minds, the concept of a 1.5 MOA
not
or 2
exciting.
MOA gun is like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So we have
serious hangover when we talked about.
So there was reticence to try the 338.
But the 6 arc, reasonably newer yet to the party, and we had, we looked at 22 arc, 6 arc, 338 arc, and the 6 arc really was appealing. Interesting to me, with the bench rest background and its close proximity to a 6 PPC is for sure a good start, right? The case capacity is really close,
What are they running in a 6 PPC for speed?
So my experience with the 6 PPC was all based on light bullets and 22, 23 inch barrels, and we would run a 66 grain bullet at 33, 34. So pretty
in the bench rest. So you're
Correct.
running a copper jacket lead core bullet.
Yeah.
That fast and expecting very consistent. So what kind of twist? Probably like 12, 14?
14 was the standard for 6 PPC. Yeah. But case capacity, the 6 arc and the 6 PPC are close. The arc actually has about a grain water capacity, more capacity than 6 PPC. But that case capacity, when you look at our requirements and you look at a short barrel, you could have done the same with a 6 Creed and got similar velocity. You might even you'd think you should be able to get a little more velocity, and you might, but it's at a cost, right?
Well, I've been trying to get you guys excited about doing the ARC cartridges in a line of automatic guns, and I can't quite get everybody spooled up, so I'm kind of my little secondary incentive was to get us excited about that line of cartridges.
Yeah, so the 6 arc, really efficient, small, little case, and for a short barrel, the efficiencies, you're going to get good powder burn, and interestingly enough, so we we're like, oh man, we got to try this. So we got reamers, we got all dyes and all the things, and we're like, oh man, we look in our powder cache and we're like, what are we going to use for powder? So I went into my reloading room and I went back to some of the fast burning powders, from bench rest type cartridges, and looked at some powder ranges, and then you're like, oh man, we started tinkering.
Well, when we did the 308 accountant, that was, what was that, a 10-inch barrel? 12. It was 12, wasn't it?
The effective length was I think it was around that same 11.
Yeah. So what we learned is we didn't want to run a standard 308 load through there. It wasn't bad,
right?
But when we shipped it off to Federal and let their custom shop take a run at it,
sure,
that was pretty cool. They've got some pretty smart guys on powders.
Yeah.
And so what they ended up doing was running a little bit faster powder.
Yeah.
So that you can optimize that barrel length. And so if you guys look at the way that you transfer energy from a cartridge to a bullet, it's like you look at the pressure that you apply to the base of the bullet, right, over time. And so the powder burn rate dictates the shape of that pressure curve, right? And then essentially you want to capture as much of that as you can before the bullet's gone.
Sure.
So at that distance, like a 10, 11 inch barrel, you're shortening the ability to run a lower pressure curve for more time, which is a great way to get the most possible velocity out of a cartridge. We do that all the time with our long range cartridges, where we look for these slower burning powders, maximum case capacity, right? And so you look at the area under the curve, and that informs you to the type of work that you can do to accelerate that bullet. So with the really short barrel, you try to keep that curve, get that curve back down to lower pressures before the bullet exits, because there's some secondary effects with muzzle blast and disruption on bullet bases that affects how the gun shoots. So we're looking for a really, really high pressure peak, right? Get the peak high so you can get the most area under the curve that happens before that bullet exits. And so we found in that 308 that faster burning powder, right, tuned for that barrel length, gave us optimal performance. And with the 308, we had the advantage of big surface area on the bullet, because if you apply pressure over a bigger square inch, bigger surface area, then you essentially get a bigger force, right? And that bigger force can accelerate that bullet faster, get more of the energy out of there. So with this decision to go 6mm, we have this challenge to overcome, which is this smaller diameter bullet base. And we've got this, short barrel, but I think with this small case, it kind of gave us that advantage with the fast powders.
Yeah. Yeah, and we tested a couple different bullets. We tested the 80 grain bullets, which you got to play with some, and all the way up to the 105s. And, remarkably, the performance of this cartridge, even out of the 11-inch barrel, was, precision. When they're tinkering with these different powders, I mean, they couldn't make the gun not shoot in terms of precision. It was remarkable. It was really a matter of how do we get good ESs and better velocity, right? We're chasing velocity because of, like you're talking about your...
Yeah, but just put it in context. We chase velocity without trying to break the laws of physics.
Of course.
So velocity at...
at the short barrel.
Acceptable
of
pressures.
Course. Yeah, we didn't break any rules on we weren't, we stayed within the data. And so, the super small, the thing that was interesting, and going to the engineering side, these things don't, I mean, we didn't have a bolt that would accommodate this slightly smaller bolt or cartridge head. This, using the Grendel, which really came from the 220 Russian, is the parent case for all of them. It's slightly smaller. And back in the bench rest days, they were fine. They were interchangeable. It was a single shot. We didn't have the complexity that was required for feeding and injection, but they were interchangeable. I could run my PPCs on the standard 308 bolt face.
What extractor were you running?
It was it's a sliding head, no ejectors, so
it was a sliding plate,
yeah,
like a Savage style.
Yeah, and it was fine, right? They worked, but for us, we found we had to redesign our bolt head just a little bit, so we got a new bolt head out of this to accommodate this.
Well, we've got our extractor set up in the GLR, so that it's bent and it's machined in such a way that when it collapses and closes and it's in the capture position, not the snap over position, that it doesn't actually push on the case and disturb the case. So that's a little bit of a issue when it came to trying to run this smaller one.
Yeah, it was just not. I mean, it would work, but it wasn't.
But that was pretty straightforward. We just changed the bolt face diameter. Shrunk everything in, tested ejection. Did we end up with 2 or 1 on that bolt face ejectors?
We ended up with 2.
Yeah. So it zings them.
Yeah. Yeah, it still kicks it out of there. It's hard to eject those. The shorter the case gets, the more you have to bring the ejectors into the bolt face and consider those things so that you don't run out of travel with your ejectors, and there's all sorts of things like that. But we were able to get all that worked out, and it ejects well. So
yeah, by the way, I need to order one of those with a titanium action body.
Would
just remind me.
Yeah. So that was the cartridge. Feed cycles. There's very limited magazine options,
and we're not going to design something for this. That's just beyond the scope of the project.
Sure. Yeah. So there was enough.
We ended up single feed, right? That's the easy way to do it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got 2 different mag options that will come with the rifle. We went with the heavy barrel, which is interesting, right? We leveraged our heaviest carbon wrap C60 contour barrel, and which
when Jim and I did that climber stock, is that 8 years ago?
It's in that neighborhood, yeah. 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is
and
crazy.
Fits super.
Yeah, all of that, isn't it?
Yep.
When we did that stock, the original consideration planned for a barrel that was that heavy. And so if you look at the shape on the top of the stock, you know, we always machine to fit exactly the barrel contour, so you get this really nice fitment. But you have to have a certain amount of flat on the top, and the goal is to make it universal and configurable into really cool, you know, different systems. You have to just really gauge that right, because if you look at it with a C20 barrel, it looks really good. But now we've used the 60 contour, C60, and it looks really good. But it's kind of
it's barely right squeaks there in the margins.
But for a short barrel, it's
we've also changed our work holding and inletting, so that allows us a little more room on the edges, where before we'd be cutting fixturing if we went too big on the climber.
Yeah, so, the old plate style of inletting would have been a little bit of a challenge.
And so the first barrel we did was 11 inches, and it barely cleared the stock, right? The suppressors, I mean, 1/8 inch from the carbon, and we're like, well, let's give ourselves a little bit of room for breathing there and not overcook our stock with because people are going to want to shoot these, and they might get hot. So we went to 11 1/4 inch barrel.
Yeah, you remember when we did the fore-end length? Like the rule is half of the barrel length for the fore. Like that's the classic, you know, stock making rule of thumb. It's like if your barrel's going to be this, then you make the fore-end this length. Yeah. And so we designed that thing for 22 or 20.
I think we were like that 22 range.
So we must have went for the longest. We must have designed the fore-end for the longest barrel, so it didn't look funny. Yeah. Right. So 11, that was the number.
11. Yeah. And we're actually get into the stock next. So that velocity from that 11 1/4 inch barrel is 2,300 with the 105s. So just pushing that 2,300 feet per second.
I don't remember what the 80 was running. I swear like it was a little bit faster.
2,500.
Yeah, with the 80.
Yep.
Yeah. Did we hit 25?
Yeah, I was shooting that a little bit, and I was getting it to 25, and that was with some factory ammo. I'm sure we could have squeezed.
I was thinking we were like pushing 24 with the load that I had taken down there.
Yeah, that might be where we landed on that. But
you probably have the profile.
I'll look real quick.
And so we tested against factory ammo, and this cartridge is designed around AR platform, so it's throttled for pressure. So, you know, we're using a bolt action gun. You know, technically we could push, you know, but we're keeping it reasonable. Yeah. So
2398.
Okay, so 2,400. So we're 100. Yeah, about 100 less with the 105.
So you were shooting the factory Hornady 80 grain varmint bullet.
Yep.
At 25.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was what you shot and tested.
Yeah. And how did it do group wise compared to the loads?
You know, we weren't having quite the same success with the factory ammo. I mean, it wasn't shooting poorly, but we were maybe at an inch.
It's designed for different barrel lengths.
Sure, so exactly.
Like what we've learned about short barrels. I remember the first, the collective, like the first one that kind of got us into the Skunkworks
co-pilot
mindset was the co-pilot.
Yeah.
And that was a 16-inch barrel.
Yeah. Just
barely, not SBR.
Yeah.
With a collapsible Manners stock, and that was before Manners had released that collapsing stock to the marketplace, and so we were like the first, you know, product collab there. So we did that product, and I remember we went from 6.5 Creedmoor behaving like this tame pussycat where everything works, and then all of a sudden, maybe it was 18-inch barrel.
I think we were offering a couple lengths there. Yeah.
I just remember it. As soon as you cracked under 18 inches, extreme spreads, we really struggled to get extreme spread under 100 feet per second.
Yeah.
And you go start tuning a load, you can make it work better. But so all of these cartridges seems like the loads that you get factory ammunition are optimized for longer barrel lengths. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, that factory ammo would shoot great with a longer barrel. Yeah. But in this short barrel, we have this problem. And it's back to that powder curve where the pressure is, what the muzzle pressures are, how it affects the bullet when it leaves. Yeah. And that also affects that extreme spread, which also has an impact on your bullet point of impact and group size, etc.
Yeah. We also, because we cut rifle, we're able to tweak. We actually increased the twist rate to help stabilize this heavier bullet for the slower velocities.
Where did we end up with?
7.
Yeah.
Right. So it just gave us a little extra factor. 7.5 twist is fine on 16-inch and longer, and it's probably fine, where we were, but at altitude and just
for sure,
we got a safety
it would have worked
factor.
fine with the 80s.
Yeah, it would have worked fine with the 80s. So
and the concept with the 80, going back to terminal performance.
Sure.
Right. We know with a VLD style, target bullet, burger-ish, right? We know we need to be getting close to 2,000 feet per second for like a threshold impact velocity for that bullet to have a chance of coming apart and doing some damage. So that's kind of always that number that we're looking for. Hey, what's it doing at distance? Where do we hit 2,000 feet per second? That kind of gives you a threshold. Now you get a cheat when you do something like the ELD match. So you got this thinner copper jacket, you've got this tip, and the dynamics of how the bullets fail, right, and start to expand and come apart. Because really, for a bullet to be successful, we kind of need it to fail, right? It needs to come apart. And so with those arrangements, it actually brings that impact speed down. And you take that varmint bullet, well, that bullet's got all the juice that we're used to in like an ELD match, but then they take that tip and they get really extreme about making that come apart. Mm-hmm. And me personally, I haven't had a lot of experience with that, but I felt like that theory of terminal applied in this situation might give us a little bit of a cheat in distance. And the real question was, would it work?
And you had an opportunity to play with it a little.
Yeah, and I think that it would work, and I think based on my experience and result that it could be a great choice, but I cannot convince myself that for all the situations that bullet would be right. Yeah. So I think it would be great for shooting coyotes, but something that's designed to actually blow the guts out of a prairie dog that quick, to me, makes me feel like if you made a mistake on your shot placement and put it in a shoulder scapula, maybe low where it's a little thicker, maybe we could overexpand the bullet and not get the penetration we wanted. Yeah. Like I had a bullet performance that expanded, retained some weight, made it to the other side of a whitetail's rib cage, but walked up on this buck and it got up and ran off, and I had to put another one in him. And he had laid there for 10 or 15 minutes and didn't have one speck of blood that came out of him, out of his nose, out of a wound, anything. And so for me, it worked, and it would have killed him. He was dead because we did a lung, and it deflected off a rib, picked up some liver, ended up on the far side. But I didn't like it.
No, you came back and you're like, let's look at the 105. Yeah. So we got the VLD hunting bullet, and velocities and drop, out to 500 yards. And I actually did the ballistics out to 1,000, where it remains supersonic out to 1,100 plus. Supersonic out to 1,100 plus. 500 yards, we're doing 1,700
And the only reason that matters is because you're going to play with a gun from Gunworks. Of
course I am.
distance, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to do ballistics. We're going to do turrets. We're going to do data packages that go in, smart optics. And so you're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to do ballistics through the lower end of transonic into subsonic.
Sure.
Unless you do Doppler radar and data files, and those are not easy to put together in those configurations.
Right.
So I think out to that 1,000 yards, you're going to be able to run this in a standard solver without any monkey business, and you're going to be able to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And so far, I mean, even in the early testing, it's been, performing extremely well. But if you think about, our goal was 400 or 500 yards, and 500's extremely achievable.
What's your impact velocity at 500?
17 plus. So it's a little over 1,700.
Yeah, pushing it.
Yeah.
But it's
right there. Yeah. So that was kind of like, here we are. There. That's the arc, right? And then we get into the stock, and like I said, originally we looked at a traditional style folding chassis, and
before you move on from the bullet.
Yeah, let's
now,
talk about
you've only been here for a couple of years. Sure. Jim, you started with us
2014.
12 years ago.
Yep.
That's crazy. Is that intern starting or full-time starting?
That was an intern was in 14.
Yeah, cool.
15 was full-time.
So 2014, we were still doing 6XC.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? This is before 6 Creedmoor.
Yeah.
We'd done a bunch with 22-243. We'd played a little bit in that small bullet, high velocity, and we ended up at that 6XC. That was a David Tubb creation.
Yeah.
It was a magical combination.
That's on the BR case.
You picture 22-250 that's straightened up a little bit. It's a 22-250 size.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were running 115s, 2950, I think. I've always had this goal of around 3,000 feet per second copper jacket lead core, and mainly because, and if you really pay attention, you get a lot faster than that. You can get really great performance, except for the odd flyer.
Yeah.
Right? And the odd flyers are random. And if you look at your SD and you look at all your data, you're like, oh, well, it's minimal. But if that odd flyer happens when you pull the trigger on a $60,000, now $100,000 sheep hunt, it's a disaster. So we're the statistics, in my opinion, are not something you rely on in our business. It's the spread. Like, what is the worst case scenario? And so, like, it's a big deal to have flyers. So you pull that speed down just a little bit, now you get this more consistent performance. And so 105s, 115s, 6XC keeps you under 3,100 feet per second. And we shot so many elk with this thing. I mean, we were smashing elk at 1,000, 11, 1,200 yards. And you think you picture that and you're like, well, how does that even work? But it with authority would kill them.
That's impressive.
And the customers that ended up with those guns, same behavior. I actually talked to a guy this year who just called and he was so excited. He had a gun, and 10 years later, he got some more ammo from us and ran it in the gun, and it was dead on.
Nice.
Right? It was the same 10 years later.
Yeah.
In his gun, speed, performance, ballistics, everything. But that cartridge was really, really great. Yeah. And what it did was it built for me, again, that understanding of how terminal works in real life. Sure. And it's straightforward science that you can apply in all scenarios. And that 6XC was so effective at those distances. And here's the impact velocities, and here's how it performed. And if you just scale that back and say, okay, now that bullet at that speed in the little cartridge we put together here, the 6-arc, at this short barrel speed, where does that bullet that we have this confidence in, right? Where does it perform the same in the 6-arc? And we're talking about 400 yards.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think is really, really important in our space is understanding where the source of truth and information's come from. And I think it's wonderful that it's grown so much in the past 2 decades. Like it is so different. Like when we started, we were the only game in town for a shooting system. When we started, we were the only guys building long-range hunting weapons anywhere. Like, I mean, there was guys that were like doing, some Allen cartridge, 15-pound gun that you could shoot 1,800 yards with, and you'd print out this drop chart, and you'd have all these things that you do, and it's bullshit. That's not a hunting weapon. That's, that's a play toy. A hunting weapon is something that literally goes to the field and takes advantage of a 5-second opportunity and kills at 500, 600, 700 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we did the first ballistics rangefinder. We really pushed everybody towards this idea of BC drives the science of long-range hunting. So we've really pushed this concept, and now the terminal performance piece of that, and the ballistics piece of that. That you have to be careful that in today's world, with all this information that you have, that you follow or understand the limitations of your information sources. And there's a lot of people that would like to give you advice on hunting that aren't hunters. Just because you killed a deer and you've killed an elk doesn't mean that you really have the experience to be teaching with authority what the requirements are. Now, if that person can lean on an authority and can recycle and regurgitate that true information, then fine, it works. But again, why not just go to the real source? So just throwing a little bit out there that in today's world of fashion show influencers, there's a lot of people that maybe have certain specialities and have something to contribute. But if they're not the original source of the information, then it's just like buying a fierce rifle that's copied our negative comb. Like, they don't understand why the physics work, but they said, well, Gunworks does it this way, so let's copy that. You're going to miss out on some of the original. You might get a little bit of the benefit, but you have the potential to go sideways. All right, so we talk about terminal performance. Like, our experience tells me, like, that 400 yards is a deadly distance on animals that will blow your mind in size. Right?
Yeah.
It will outperform even your wildest imagination.
Yeah. Well, and I think for the biggest part of the country shooting deer, and this would be a tremendous opportunity to use for deer. And it's so, you think about it as being so small.
Yeah. Well, okay, so sorry, I had to sidebar the terminal performance thing.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the cool shit.
Yeah, the stock.
I mean, the short barrel thing's something we've done before.
Absolutely.
And that, other than the low development and applying the principles that we understand, right? We already know the science behind this. So other than that was straightforward. Now we get into the territory of the unknown.
Yeah.
So take it away.
Yeah, and I'm going to push this too. So we looked at, I say we, I was challenged with why don't we take some of the learnings we had around hinges and way back you had a stock made with a hinge mechanism, and using our smallest, most compact stock and turning it into a folder. Sounds easy. So we looked at the climber and challenged our engineering team, how do we go about it? And in true form, we had a fully machined hinge to test, in a few days, less than a week.
Yeah, I mean, when the concept came to us, because we'd been looking at some other options there for stocks, and then when we finally boiled it down, it's like, we need to put this in a climber. We were a little bit behind the 8 ball on our timeline for when we wanted to launch this product. And so we spent a day just kind of making a space claim and figuring out, like, hey, how's this going to look? Can we make it work? What are the hang-ups? And we kind of went through that evaluation, decided, this is going to work. And I think Ethan jumped on that project, and within 3 or 4 days had the models ready, and we kicked it over to Zach in our R&D machining department, and they cranked out a hinge, and it was less than 2 weeks that we had a fully functional prototype that we were
destroying.
Yeah. That's the first thing we do when we get something cool and new, is we smash it on the ground and try and break it and see what we can do there. But yeah, I mean, to go from concept to functional prototype in that amount of time was pretty cool. It was exciting.
Did we get some video of some drop testing?
Oh yeah, we took a lot of video.
I don't know if we need to. Let's get that published and let's put it up on YouTube so people can see this. But it is so painful. It is so extraordinarily painful to watch what happens to a gun when you drop it from 5-6 feet.
It makes you cringe when you just see that thing. You're like, no, that can't be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you got glass lenses squirting out the front of a scope, right?
Yeah.
And we found in all the drop testing we've done, we found that you can't test a trigger for performance in drop testing if you don't have a rifle scope on the gun.
Yeah,
you don't
changes
get
the mass.
You don't get the same type of harmonic, vibrational, acceleration, and specifically, I think it affects the frequency response of that impact, and so that you have to have the full kit. And so there's a lot of rifle scopes that have powdered lenses inside of them.
Yeah.
Right. I can think of one of them that's got just a glass lens that's just been absolutely just crushed into powdered. Material.
That's the one we used on this. We just keep bolting it on every time we do drop testing now. So
yeah, but I think it's really what we take for granted is all of the skills and capabilities where we take the most difficult shape and position to put a hinge, and then we blend it in so it matches the curvature of the grip so naturally, and it's got this complex shape and a folding mechanism where it's starting to have a 45-ish, I'm sure you could tell me the sweep of the grip at that exact location, but and turn it over, model it and turn it over to a guy that can start machining these two separate parts that have to match up, and all of the button and the mechanism to keep it shut, and then we go and destroy it, and then we iterate.
Well, Jim was here when we were a small shop. We had CNC machines chambering. Mm-hmm. We had CNC machines that were inletting rifle stocks, and before we did the Climber Magnus verdict and vertically integrated carbon fiber manufacturing, we were outsourcing our stock designs to third-party manufacturers, and then we would bring in a shape, and then we would machine our inletting and fit all of our parts in. Mm-hmm. And at that time, when we wanted to do a product or a part, right, we weren't making a lot of parts. I think we had the Doosan in there. Yeah. We had a couple parts that we might have been making. But essentially, we would have to take our design work. So that was phase one of vertical integration, was we get control of all the designs. Then you can manage quality, design, etc. And it gives you a license to try to kill your business, if you remember the GLR development. But you take that state. How long would it take to prototype that hinge that we did back then?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been. We wouldn't have been machining it there, so we're looking at design, and if we also consider my skill level at design work at the time, would have taken some extra, but getting that outsourced, getting it through a shop, and that's several weeks there to get somebody to turn us a
best case. I remember 9 to 12 weeks was usually your first prototype.
Yeah, absolutely. And and we've put a lot of work and effort into making sure that we're doing our best to get the design right from the beginning as well. But if you have another iteration, then you're in an additional 9 to 12 weeks in that process. So it's like that's a several month process to design, test, prototype, and get to a conclusion on something like that hinge back then, where now it's like a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks, and here we are.
Well, if you just break it out, so you've got a design engineer, right? Ethan, pick Ethan. So you get a concept together, you put a requirements together, you turn it loose for the design engineer. He attempts his best effort at the design. And then you do a design review, fix any issues. Now you've got something you think, okay, this is worth investing in prototype. Maybe we've 3D printed one just to gauge, a fitment and a performance. And then we turn it over to a, what would you call Jim? Master, machine, whatever.
Guru.
Wizard, yeah. So Jim essentially is one of those old curmudgeon-y machinists that is so good at what he does that you put up with all the grouchiness, right?
Exactly.
But he can essentially take that concept and write the machine code to manifest it into a real part in just hours. Like when we've done these big iteration cycles on Nexus and then Index, the stocks, the chassis, the parts, the magazines, the actions, the bolt parts, etc., and you're doing 20 or 30 rapid iterations of parts. Like the expectation that I've kind of built is that when you give Jim the design, within 1 day or less, you get back the code.
Yeah.
And it's not like, well, let's see if this code works. It's you go push start and here your part comes.
Yeah.
Like it's real output. And if you're changing a design and you need to run another iteration of the same design, it's hours. So now you get this back. So you look at the difference between way back. I remember writing code for inletting and having to load it on the stupid floppy disk that we would go run on that old piece of crap Herco out in the little shop in Burlington. It's like, holy crap, this is a big difference to come all the way, to this point. And so Jim kicks that out, and then you've got a guy managing we've got 3 R&D machines. We've got a 5-axis, a 3-axis mill, and then we've got a lathe and a couple manual machines. But he can basically, between a combination or one of those machines, he can execute that part design. And we've got some really cool setups we've created on how to do tooling and hold fixtures and to extract everything we can from those 5-axis machines. Okay, so you kick it over to him, and then you're cutting chips, and again, you're not testing code really. You're just making sure there's nothing wrong, but it creates the part. So you have this potential for a few days for design, a day maybe turnaround there, maybe 1 to 2 days for the machining component. So that's how you can deliver a functioning prototype in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
is that infrastructure and team that has these specialties, that has this capability to do this.
Yeah, and we pulled Jim into another area, and he was kind of bringing up his protege at that point, and so we had Zach doing those whole parts, and he was kind of proving himself out on those machines. But that was another question
Element
we had
that.
is can Zach can he perform at Jim's level? And Jim has done a great job at kind of bringing him up and showing him the ropes. But Zach's got some good experience, and yeah, he was able to pull that off, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, I always have expectations that are never met, and I can be a real asshole and hard to work for, but it's worth stepping back and maybe talking about like how fucking awesome it is to be able to afford a team like this, right? And to be able to produce really cool products that our customers want and pay the money for, so that we can convert all that back into the next cool thing.
Yeah.
And there's so many companies in our space right now that do not do this. And they don't innovate. They don't create anything new. All they do is they either copy somebody else's work, right? Or literally don't do anything new and just regurgitate and recycle over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And there's some really good products that get created that way. But I think it's super important for consumers to understand that when they buy products from a company that is relentless in innovation, and I'm not saying we're the only ones. Like, I would go over across the mountain and go to Glenn Seekin's shop as an absolute example of a company that is relentless in, we're going to bring something new, we're going to make it better, we're going to change this, we're going to do it ourselves. It's like they're, in my opinion, they're a great example of that. I could give you a whole list of companies that I admire, but there's a lot of people that don't. And when you look at pricing and you look at value, a lot of people will throw shade at Gunworks is really expensive. But again, like, go look at the things that we've brought to the space that have changed the entire industry and made it better.
Yeah. And there's, so one of the interesting things to think about when we're developing those new things as well, that, it was kind of a small example, but with this Hinge, Ethan and I looked at that, and as we were doing this drop testing, it's like, well, how strong does it need to be? Like, hopefully guys aren't dropping their rifle at all, but what height does it need to drop from? How many impacts should it be able to take? And when you're innovating and doing new things that, aren't as proven and tried, then you kind of have to also design and create the benchmark. And so that's part of it as well, is like, well, how good does this need to be? What is the performance that we care about? And so we had to walk that line a little bit as well, of like, we want this Hinge to perform in this way, but how strong does it need to be, and where do we need to add material and make changes? And that's another part of that we have to play with.
And we're not, so the challenge with engineering for a Skunkworks project is, it's very likely that the work that you're doing is only used as inspiration and doesn't actually have a permanence, right? If you look at every Skunkworks, guess what? It's limited. There's only so many that get produced. But if we go back and look at every Skunkworks, there's little tidbits that we learn, that we pull from.
Sure.
And for example, like the cut, like that was a really ambitious project.
Yeah.
Right. Basically take an existing design and then redesign everything to try to remove as much weight without sacrificing performance. It was a big project, but what came out of that? C20 barrel contour.
Yeah.
Like, pretty cool adaptation that landed in every single climber. And when we updated our new rifle stock manufacturing process, when you did that, what was that, 2 years ago? 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years now.
3 years. It's like we basically cut 8 ounces out of a climber in weight. So we took all of those learnings that we had, we took all of the sum total of all of our experience, and we got a stock that's stiffer, stronger, and almost half a pound lighter out of that development.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so again, taking that, if you look at how did we get this project done this quickly, well, it was 3 years of index and hinge design and testing
and adhesives
and screw ups.
Yeah.
Right. What we really learned out of that sprint on the index to create that carbon fiber cheek piece, and how we attach it to aluminum, and how you can fail it. What's the limits that it's capable of? Like, we took those learnings and we applied them directly to this project. So we kind of knew what we could do in terms of bonding surface, materials, prep, etc., and an expectation for failure. So when you did your first drop to failure test, how did your product perform?
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool to see that. Yeah, I mean, we nailed it on a lot of areas. We decided to change the heat treat on the metal that we were using, but beyond that, like, we didn't have to make hardly any adjustments to it. So
again, that investment and that pain, that price that we've paid.
Yeah.
Because it didn't happen like that in the index. Like, that didn't happen that fast. The pain that we experienced there, and that investment in team and learnings and knowledge, that pays off in the future with, rapid development.
Yeah. And the hinge, people you see it and it looks like a hinge, but there's several parts that go into it: the latch, the mechanism, the geometries, and then it has to attach to the bedding box. So we actually had to modify our bedding box. So another part that had to get recreated. And
well, why didn't we do the hinge in aluminum?
The hinge in aluminum, we I guess that was the reason we went with steel in that scenario, was that we did have one shot at this. We wanted to make sure that it was going to perform the way we needed it to, and we weren't going to iterate it a bunch of times and mess with it. And so we felt more confident in that situation there. So
in the the product that we're going to make, are we going to use steel or aluminum?
We're using steel.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. When we do a development like this, I always have a different agenda. Like this folder to me is actually an opportunity for learnings for a future product that we want to make.
Yeah.
So in that future product that we want to make, are we going to try to do some of that in aluminum?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or titanium or...
Yeah.
This
Sky's
product's
the limit
not
there.
weight constrained. Necessarily.
We didn't add a whole bunch, did we?
I think we ended up adding around a half a pound with this. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it sound better to say 8 ounces?
Yes.
sure, 8 ounces. Yeah.
So it's
To me.
technically, it's not any heavier than our climber stocks were 3 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
There we go. But
As an engineer, it's really, really important to use all of your learnings and knowledge and exactness to help the marketing guys know how to spin. It's super important. It really is.
Yeah.
so now we've incorporated this folder, and it wasn't just enough to fold it. We actually even adjusted the angle so that it folds in a manner that keeps it as compact as possible. So even the angle of the buttstock fold was adjusted.
Yeah, I mean, we went
That's
through that
the
exercise. Yeah, it's like
That's how nerdy we get.
we're trying to keep it shorter and then keep that toe line at one in its folded state, keep it up so that it's more compact. And we
Limited by a scope.
so we put the scope in there and we brought it just as high as we could before it was going to start interfering with the objective lens on the scope. And I mean, we kind of, again, we had quite a bit of experience to draw from in order to be able to do this in a short amount of time. But it was fun to kind of go through that process. And like we said at the beginning, it's like we got this first folder and, we were so excited about it. We walked it through the shop. We showed it to everybody. And, a lot of times things that come out of engineering, they're new and exciting. And some people are like, oh, I don't want that. That looks, that's not for me.
Or, man, I don't want to have to do
Yeah,
this.
don't want to have to make that, and especially getting Corey to like something, that's pretty tricky. But we brought it through the shop, and every single person without fail was like, I gotta have that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So we chose to put the hinge right at the back end of the tang on the action.
Sure.
Now, the gun that I built on a climber, I think it's been 8 years. It was a climber, and we split the grip, right? Because it's the fatter part.
Yeah.
It's the fatter part of the stock there. And so we used kind of an off-the-shelf folding mechanism and adapted it to the composite at that location. And so when it would fold over, it actually collapsed, and it worked fairly good. And I used that to go kill a stone sheep. So got experience with it. It's pretty cool. I mean, that's 8-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it never really manifested into a product. So instead of that, we chose to go right there at the tang. Now, I know why I was on board with that, but do you feel that there was a logic to ending up in that point, or why didn't we try to do it at the grip or behind the grip like we've done in the Index or we did in that prototype?
Yeah, I mean, there was a handful of considerations. One of them was just that if we go behind the grip, down in that area, that adds 3 or 4 inches, makes the whole thing longer. So we're trying to buy that space, and then, but if you put it in the middle of the grip, you can buy a little bit of space. The geometry there is a little more complicated, and you're attaching into these two segments of the stock, and so we brought it all the way up to the top of the grip where we've got some aluminum inside the stock there that's anchoring the action in, and we get to anchor the hinge into that and borrow some of that strength there, so it strengthened the mechanism as well. So we've still got a bond into the back half of the stock, but the front half is secured there. That gained us some confidence in the strength of that.
We could go a little bit more compact with the hardware, and minimize the add.
Yeah, that was the other consideration.
We went, because we used an existing stock design, the only option was to fold this around the backside.
Correct.
And the intention, there's a lot of different folding mechanisms out there, and the intention for us is this is just for transport.
Yeah.
Right? This is just for transport, storage, just to cut massive inches off the overall length of this product.
Yeah.
Not trying to do some other requirement.
Correct. This is all about.
So using an existing shape, get some learnings from it, go on from there.
Yeah.
So folds backside.
Yep.
You want to talk about A and T?
Yeah, let's do it. I think we've covered like the major developments of the. You've adapted the action to the arc.
Yeah.
Case size. We've basically made the shortest possible barrel without hacking on the stock, and optimized ammunition offerings and loads for that. And then we talked about this feature of the folding mechanism in the stock.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered, is from the physical standpoint, what it is. Now, kit this up, we're doing a 6+, is that right?
6+, yeah.
6+ stainless.
Yep.
So very, very nice suppressor, and then we'll have a 6mm reducer in there.
It's
and then
very quiet.
And then I think we have a real attraction to this Leopold 2.5 to 10.
Yeah.
Because I always go back to that as a shorter range, really versatile scope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kitted out
works
with that.
really well.
It's very, very
well, it keeps the whole package extremely small but capable.
Yeah. So there's the gun.
Yeah.
So now let's spin this ATF
because we got to have
package.
fun. Yeah. So we got to the when we first started talking about this as this ATF package, that was the working name that kind of saw it through, and
there's always danger in working names becoming
happens a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and for at the conception of this whole thing, it was what is the alcohol and tobacco, right?
If it's an ATF package,
right.
It's got where's the
right?
AT?
So we're like, where's the alcohol and tobacco? And then we had to talk about the case and the packaging, and starting with the alcohol and tobacco, we learned very quickly we can't ship alcohol to it because we went right on the path of we got to go and get some good bourbon. That was probably my inspiration. But we in pulling together, curating this package, we partnered with Yeti on a cool flask that will go in the package, and then for tobacco, we will gift friends of Gunworks, Guy Fieri,
Fieri.
My fault.
That's all right.
Yeah, and I have and working.
He tells a really good story about how to pronounce his name. A joke about you have to pay a fee, Eddie. Was the punchline?
Nice.
So it's fee,
well,
Eddie.
I can empathize with pronunciation of my name.
A lot of guys don't realize like how nuts Guy is about guns and hunting. Like he's pretty freaking hardcore when it comes to the hunting thing.
Yeah.
And I met him a long time ago on a ranch in Texas. We were at Champion Ranch, and Jason Harrison from KUIU had brought a whole bunch of people together, and I met him down there and delivered a gun for him, and it just kind of turned into this, eye-opening thing for me about like how intense he was about chasing and guns and shooting and all that stuff. And in today's climate, you have to be careful with your brand, and he's built such a great brand that I think he's pretty cautious with that.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a supporter, and if you dig a little bit into his background and history, like he is nuts about cigars. Like that's kind of a thing for him.
Yeah, and I am not. So it's one of the few vices that I don't share, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea.
No, he's such an aficionado and a consumer. Like he went out and created a product line.
Yeah,
because
he's got his own brand.
Yeah,
which is
and a lot of guys do that. Well, he's got a brand that covers a lot of things, which is Knuckle Sandwich, which is really cool, actually.
Yeah. So Knuckle Sandwich.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
But he's got a product that he's very invested in.
Yeah.
It's not just a celebrity sticking their brand
Sure.
on a product to try to cash. Like this is a passion thing for him.
Yeah. So we partnered with them, and they helped us choose a couple really nice cigars. From what I'm told, I guess I will try them.
So did we get a custom band out of it or not? We're so short on time.
Yeah.
I was worried.
We're working on it.
All right.
That's right. We'll see. It's in process. But so then we had to figure out how to package the cigars, because we're not going to throw 2 cigars in there. And we tinkered with a couple cases, and then you brought to me this really cool billet aluminum cigar tube that was spectacular by Tuber. And so we reached out to this company. We had no relationship. And our procurement officer reached out, and they were huge Gunworks fans, of all things, right? And so they were so excited to work with us. They did 4 iterations of treatment with the logo treatment for the knuckle sandwich on these tubes. And I also learned, we had this other learning. We're going to take delivery of these cigars really shortly. They're so particular about their brand. They weren't going to ship us, they weren't going to allow us to get cigars until we were prepared to house them appropriately in a humidor in our Wyoming dry climate, that we were going to ruin these cigars before. So now we've
set up the handling mechanisms to deal in tobacco
and appropriately ship them and protect them during transit and time. So I learned, our learnings didn't stop.
It was kind of fun to bring those 2 things involved, and we jokingly called this the ATF package, and not in a derisive tone, but actually it's like, if you think about like the movement that we just saw because of this bill, like the ATF is now not collecting tax on short-barreled rifles.
Yeah.
And not collecting tax on suppressors.
Correct.
Now, we still have all the paperwork you still have to fill out and do. And you look at the changes that they've made over the last couple of years, like they've really, really made a huge impact on the wait times on suppressors. Like it is huge for us.
It is.
So when you look at the direction that our government's going, particularly the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department, right? That bureau, I like it.
Yeah.
We are going the right direction, and so let's call this thing the ATF package as a celebration
absolutely
of our government supporting our rights to enjoyment in whichever pastime you've got.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty I think unique to see our government actually moving the right direction for us.
Yeah.
So let's celebrate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And last but not least, Pelican, right? We've not actually partnered with Pelican in the past on anything. We've talked to them, but their Pelican Air product, is much lighter. We got the size that we wanted, and I think people discount what it takes. We have to design the actual foam in however many layers, depending on the complexity of the product. But
you learned this last year in the
we had some difficult learnings, and thankfully we did learn the types of foam, the iterations that it takes to get the fit right, and complexity of something that you would take for granted.
Well, a lot of companies are able to, and you see this in levels, you don't know what you don't know. We've got a lot of awake people in this organization where we are aware of things at a level of minutia and detail that can cause a lot of problems, because it would be so wonderful to blindly walk through life and to be able to regurgitate or duplicate, or in the case of, I think, this foam thing, a lot of people say, here's a picture of what I want to put it in. Can you design it for me? And they'll leave that to, the case company. And they'll get something that's reasonable. But when you actually do the UX and you open it and you touch and you feel, it's like there's always something left to be desired. And you take the learnings that we've had over a lot of years of dealing with this stuff. Like, there's ways to do it right. There's ways to do it that'll work. And then there's the way to do it.
Right.
And as soon as you experience that and you know it, like, I caused us a lot of pain last year with that accountant product.
I learned though.
It wasn't going to work. It
Right.
wasn't going to be good enough. It had to be the right way. And so that puts the requirement on us. We
better do better.
If you know what the right way is, then do it.
Yeah.
So you have to design it.
Yeah.
We don't get the luxury of just outsourcing
Right.
good enough.
Yeah, and what you end up with is a superior product. We have this tiny
They
case.
did a great job on that, by the way.
They did, and the logo, laser like treatment, and the hot stamp, like everything, it turned out, really well. And the product that a customer will get, this package, all housed in this case that they can actually travel to a hunt. Just like you showed up.
You have to pour your own flask full.
You do. I apologize. You get to pick your own bourbon for this. I've got recommendations, but I can't ship them to you. Yeah. So that was where we got.
I think it's cool. I don't either those two things on top aren't required, but fun.
Fun. Right? And that's what we're required to do with Skunkworks is we gotta find fun in it.
Gotta learn something.
We learn plenty.
We want to make some money.
Yep.
And we need
But
to
we want
fun.
people to be excited.
Oh, yeah.
Like we are. Yeah. So.
Well, what do you feel like you would have liked to achieve more in this product?
I think there's a few takeaways. Like, we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna look at some different materials and some hinge stuff, and to gain some weight and some things there. Folding the other direction, we need to tackle that one next and make this even more compact and better. So we got a few things beyond that, and then one of the bigger things that I'd like to address is these attachment points where we're putting them in. We're kind of taking a product that already existed and making it work, and it looks really nice, but it's a little more cumbersome. So the next time we do this, we're gonna design a couple of these carbon fiber parts to attach more appropriately, which it'll just help manufacturing and help the process go better. But
do you feel like a carbon fiber folding stock is something on the near horizon for Gunworks?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we're...
Now, let me back up. I said near.
Okay, well, I guess it depends on how we're defining
Are you
that.
forecasting before 2 years? Because here's your problem. It's like you've got a whole new stock design that has to happen. Right? And the hinge, I think we're fairly mature in like ideation and direction. But you have this new stock design, and now I've been trying to pin you down, right, on future, product roadmap. Yeah. So that it's not just whatever I feel like today when I wake up, because you know how dangerous that is. But it's a consistent thing, and where does that fit in?
Yeah.
Because
it's certainly not happening this year.
I want it to happen, but I just don't see. I'm not sure that I see that manifesting itself anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely not this year.
Quotations for a carbon fiber stock product.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we're going to see where we can work that into our products.
I guess my point is like we always try to take these learnings and convert it into real products. Sure. But technically, I think if you want this folding stock product, this is the window.
Yeah.
For the near term.
Yeah. And I think, it's super exciting that this is very lightweight capable and compact. Like it could do, you give up 8 ounces of weight on a typical climber that's already super light.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not a heavy gun.
No.
It's pretty amazing. You've shot it.
Yeah.
Did you giggle when you pulled the trigger the first time?
It was a riot to shoot. Couldn't stop shooting it. And then I got my kids and they got to come shoot it, and they were the same way. They were just thrilled. Like, it's fun.
The muzzle blast, right? I mean, it's tamed. It's good.
Yeah.
It's not super quiet. It's quiet. It's not super quiet. The recoil, like, it's nothing.
Yeah. It's dreamy.
It's actually it's probably the smallest thing I've shot since we did our 22 project a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, it is very, very low recoil.
Definitely.
And then when you shoot a bullet and then you stack another one on top of it and then another one on top of it, like, it's
remarkable.
It gets you going.
And everybody has talked about how crazy accurate it is. Like,
indications are it's worthy of the Gunworks brand.
Yeah, definitely.
And you included, but everyone that has taken it out has brought it back with 0 ammo left. Like, you shot every round that you took, right? And the same thing every time. I get a batch of ammo made up for whatever, and it's gone.
Yeah.
That's that.
Is that why you're including the 7-round mag in the?
Yeah. Exactly.
Is that right? We're doing a
10.
It's a
10. You got a 10 round and a kind of a flush 3 round.
Yeah.
Nice kit.
Yeah. Everybody's. It seems to get shot.
Use the 3-round mag to minimize the volume of throughput.
meter your.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, that was a fun discussion, guys. Always good to talk about Skunkworks and kind of what it means for our company, because I do think it's very exciting. And I love it when we produce a Skunkworks and then you see the market kind of pick up a concept on it shortly after. It's like, go look at the last 10, and every one of them I can show you a marketplace regurgitation. So it's like, I think we're pretty good about picking the right things to chase. They're fun and they're exciting. And like all Skunkworks, there's a limit. We're going to do it. We're going to walk away from it, and you don't have the opportunity to get it again. And I think people realize that it's limited.
Yeah.
So if you're into it and you want one, don't wait.
Yeah. By the time usually the podcast goes out,
might be too late.
It could be too late.
Cool. Well, thanks for the conversation, guys.
Yep.
Good fun this morning, and actually kind of got me pretty excited to go do some shooting. I know we just got some new finish and color options. A little bit.
It's a good test.
Eccentric on the color scheme. I love it. Blue's always been one of my favorite colors, so I hope it makes the final cut. And I might grab one of those and maybe get a little testing in this holiday vacation. Yeah. So should be
I'll
fun.
have to make more ammo.
All right, thanks, guys. And thanks for tuning in on Long Range Pursuit. We love talking about cool stuff and appreciate the listen and the follow. And we'll try to bring you some more good content. If you like what you're hearing here, please take a second and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on iTunes or on your favorite podcast app. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions for topics you'd like discussed or questions you want answered on the podcast. You can reach out on Facebook or Instagram or send us an email to podcast@gunworks.com. Also, be sure and check out our full offering of long-range gear at gunworks.com. Use promo code LRP for free shipping on any order.